Begin this morning in Kenya, where people are bracing up for a possible legal battle over the outcome of a closely fought presidential election. Opposition leader Raila Odinga had rejected results, calling them a travesty. His opponent, the current Vice President William Ruto, has been declared the winner, and it's not clear if Odinga would approach the Supreme Court, which has the final say on the matter. 4 of the 7 members of the Electoral Commission refused to endorse the outcome.
It's clear. What we saw yesterday was a travesty and a blatant disregard of the Constitution and the laws of Kenya by Mr. Chebukati and a minority of IEBC commissioners. The law is clear on the role of the chairperson of the IEBC. The law does not vest in the chairperson the powers of a dictator to rule the IEBC unilaterally. But suffice it to note that we will be pursuing all constitutional and legal options available to us. We will do so because we regard the many flaws in the elections and the wrongs committed by the IEBC as fatal to the process and the outcome announced by Mr. Chebukati.
Let's talk about this one, Dr. Basi.
Yes, well, Kenya, this is not unexpected. And we stated so categorically yesterday that with Martha Karua, who is the running mate, or who was the running mate to Raila Odinga in that election, already indicating that, there were issues that they would object to. And also 4 persons led by Juliana Cherera, commissioners of the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, IEBDC of Kenya, announcing, well, if you could say, rejecting the results, which they said was opaque. It was foreseeable that Raila Odinga, who had refused pointedly to congratulate, William Samoei Arap Ruto, would take this route. What the Constitution, what the law says in Kenya is that you have to put in a petition in this kind of situation within 7 days. So within 2 days, within 48 hours, we have Raila Odinga, who is a veteran opposition leader in Kenya, now saying he's going to explore all constitutional and legal options to challenge the result that was announced. 50.5% of total votes cast, 40 million voters showed up out of 22 million. And he was given, he scored 48.1% of the vote. So he wants to go to court. The Supreme Court has 14 days. The Supreme Court of Kenya has 14 days to determine whether indeed there is merit to the petition that has now been formally announced by Raila Odinga and the ODM and his coalition. Now, what happens? If the Supreme Court finds merit in it, they could order a rerun, which will happen within 60 days. Then, okay, you have that rerun, and what follows next? Now, if the Supreme Court does not find any merit in the petition, and Professor Bolaji Akinyemi was alluding to this yesterday, saying that, well, he doesn't think that, the 4 commissioners, rebellious commissioners, are holding the strong end of the wicket, and that in any case, given the deployment of technology and the transparent manner in which the results were announced, that maybe there will be no case. But it's for the Supreme Court of Kenya to decide. So what we are now faced with in Kenya is what looks like a prolonged political transition. And that was why I was saying yesterday that there is nobody can declare a definitive end, to the political process in Kenya at this time. But what is important, the message that should be put out there is that, yes, 4 presidential candidates, now the runner-up is the one challenging the result. We expect the African Union, the United Nations, the international community to prevail on all the major gladiators in the electoral process in Kenya, including the incumbent president, President Uhuru Kenyatta, to give peace a chance. Given the experience, that we had in Kenya in 2007 and also in 2017, when there was, a breakout of violence. And the cultic group that was behind that, we're told is still very active in Kenya. So there should be no breakdown of law and order. President Kenyatta has a personal responsibility to ensure that peace is maintained, and all the gladiators also have a responsibility to give peace a chance because of the strategic importance of Kenya as the regional hub for stability in East Africa. If there is an implosion in that country, it will not only be Kenya and the people of East Africa, there could be repercussions beyond the borders. And that is why, we keep insisting that the international community should show a keen interest in developments in Kenya. As for Raila Odinga, well, the stakes appear to be high. He's 77. 5 times. This is his 5th time. So there may be some desperation on the part of the Odinga alliance. But desperation is not what should be important. What should be important is the future of the people of Kenya who are facing high unemployment, high inflation, 7.1%, and who are already, whose future destiny, if I may say so, is already tied to the connection with China. That seems to have an overriding influence, impact, control over Kenya. But that's another subject. Maybe when Rotus comes, we'll look at that.
I mean, very, very well said, Dr. Abati. I think the watchword here should be peace, how we can, keep calm in Kenya at this point in time while we go through the legal battle. And Raila Odinga said it all definitely yesterday while he was speaking. He said he called for calm and all of that. But before Raila Odinga went to speak, it now looks as though it was orchestrated because Juliana Chirera, the vice chairman of IEBC in Kenya, also granted a press conference yesterday. And the press conference has gone viral because this was when she now stated the case in the tallying. Because what happened, prior to, Chibukati reading out the results at the Bomas, Juliana Chirera just said in that press conference she had at the Serena Hotel that the results were opaque. But yesterday, prior to Odinga speaking, she came out yesterday again and she gave full details of the case she was making against the IEBC about tallying. And her mathematics was wrong in that case. Because 0.001, she was meaning, that's 142,000 votes. When in effect, that's 1,420 votes. And the word mathematics was already trending yesterday in Kenya. People were looking and saying, what sort of, maths is this? Is this the case you want to make in the Supreme Court? Because she came out, and it was after the case was made by Juliana Chirera, that was when Odinga now came out to also make the case that we are not going to take this. And he alluded to the case Juliana Chirera made. So I think we have a clear picture now of the case they are going to be pushing in courts. Because when they file their petition in 7 days, and they will talk about the tallying. But people are already disputing them that the mathematics was wrong in the tallying in the first place. You can't say 0.001 is equal to 142,000 votes when its effect is 1,420 votes. Afterwards, there's been reaction to both sides. After the elections and after his presidential speech, William Ruto did grant a press conference in Kenya where he talked to journalists and he talked about the fact that he will work with the opposition in tandem with the constitution. In the papers this morning, the Nation newspaper in Kenya, there's also a story coming out talking about the major reason why Odinga lost a prominent voting bloc called the Mount Kenya region. And what happened was, Uhuru Kenyatta had a couple of years ago gone to tell people in the Mount Kenya region that William Ruto is his successor. And now for him to come and sell another ideology by saying Odinga is his successor, then it wasn't flying with them. So there was a lot of discrepancies. And there's even a story coming out of Kenya this morning that's saying that that political clout Uhuru Kenyatta has in Mount Kenya region, he might have lost it. Because that was the clout at which he used to push very hard, in the elections he did win. So it's all split down the middle. They'll file their petitions in 7 days' time. We'll see how the Supreme Court takes it. But people are already looking and say, if that's part of the tallying problems, Juliana Chirera is filing and will be the bulk of the case, then it might be suspect. They are also quoting that a portion of the law, and there was a subsisting case that talked about the fact that the chairman of the Electoral Commission does not have the unilateral authority just to go the way Chibukati went. And they are citing another case as regards that. I think it's the Wainana case in Kenya. So when you put at those two things, we can pretty much see the bulk of the arguments that will be made in the Supreme Court about tallying and all of that. Well, but the big question is...
No, we are not in a position to decide for the Supreme Court of Kenya.
No, I've not decided for that.
Yeah,
I'm saying...
The Supreme Court of Kenya, post-election petition is part of the process of ensuring electoral integrity. Now, the Supreme Court of Kenya will take a decision one way or the other. But the subtext is the only thing we can talk about. The Mount Kenya region that you refer to, that's where, William Ruto's deputy, running mate, as it were, comes from. And he used to help President Uhuru Kenyatta. They used to be pals. Okay, now he's against them. He's been accused of corruption. He's been taken to court. He's been fined and all of that. The other subtext was a question raised by Professor Akinyemi yesterday. That is it possible that Juliana Cherera is being used by Uhuru Kenyatta and some other interests? The third point to note, which the Supreme Court will determine, which was a point raised by Raila Odinga yesterday, is whether or not the chairman of the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, Chebukati, has the authority to announce the result because he was accusing him of dictatorship. Okay? Does the law in Kenya, the Electoral Act, does it require a consensus? Because the issue is about, okay, if 4 persons had their own issue where they would rejected the result as electoral commissioners, is it based on consensus or the authority vested in the position of the chairman of the party? And that's why I say, okay, we should allow the process to be concluded.
Okay.
However, what they will have in Kenya is a prolonged political transition and anxiety about what the eventual outcome will be. What we as outsiders can insist upon is peace, stability, and the implications of a disruption.
So the point I was trying to make was, we now know the arguments that will be made in the Supreme Court. Juliana Cherera made the first argument, William Ruto made the second argument. So I was just correcting the arguments. We don't know what the Supreme Court will decide.
She's not the one that will go to court.
I know.
She's a busybody, as it is concerned. She can only be a witness.
But she's a busybody that her arguments were cited by Raila Odinga as part of his argument, because in his speech yesterday, he made Juliana Cherera's argument and he also added those other arguments ahead. So we know the arguments are going to be going to the court with, and we'll see how the Supreme Court decides. But just by the way of antecedents, the Supreme Court, has very great deal of independence in Kenya. We'll move on to the next story. The presidential candidate of the Labour Party, Peter Obi, has again met with Governor of Rivers State Nyesom Wike and the former Governor of Ondo State, Olusegun Mimiko. The trio also met with top politicians like former Cross River Governor Donald Duke, Benue State Governor Sam Altom, Abia State Governor Kezia Okpeazu, and a host of others at Wike's private residence in Port Harcourt, Rivers State. The purpose or the outcome of the meeting has not been made public. Governor Wike has been meeting with top politicians from other political parties, lately fueling speculations that he may dump the People's Democratic Party after failing to clinch the party's presidential and vice presidential ticket. Dr. Bati, your take on this?
Okay, yes, well, I don't know. I mean, I think this has to be put in context. Yesterday was the 74th birthday of Dr. Peter Odili, former governor of Rivers State, and there was big celebration in Port Harcourt. And, many politicians went there to honor, a man who almost became presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party, but, for the politics at that time. And then, that did not happen. But he remains a very influential figure in Nigerian politics and in society, and particularly a father figure in River State politics. I've seen quite a number of people trying to make big weather out of the fact that Mimiko was there, Peter Obi was there, and that a photograph was taken. You can also see former Governor Donald Duke and former members of the National Assembly, all of them there. Okay, the question to ask is, if you ask Peter Obi, the presidential candidate of the Labour Party, could it be that he was in Port Harcourt to go and celebrate with Dr. Peter Odili? If you ask Mimiko, former governor of Ondo State, could it be that, these persons were part of the birthday party? And it will be difficult for people not to take pictures together, So contest, I think, is very important in this regard. The other point to make was a statement made by former Governor Mimiko of Ondo State that, look, there's no talk about anybody leaving the party, okay? But clearly, I think this has become a subject of interest because of talks since last week of a 14-member reconciliation committee that has been put together to negotiate between the Wike camp and the Atiku camp. That meeting was supposed to take place yesterday, but it didn't happen. Now we're told that that meeting will now take place on Friday. Okay, so, what is there to be negotiated? Okay, the Wike camp is saying that Iyorchia Ayu must go. Iyorchia Ayu, chairman of the People's Democratic Party, is saying, no, it's not going anywhere. That there's a difference between having a presidential candidate and a difference between having a chairman from a particular region and having a president from a particular region. And he's been quoting sections 45 and 47 of the PDP constitution. So I don't think we should make any heavy weather out of a photograph and the fact that Mr. Peter Obi was in Port Harcourt. But he is in a position and he has a whole crowd of supporters who can explain how he showed up in the company of PDP persons. Okay, what if he went there just to attend birthday party? Okay, yeah, so that's I wouldn't stretch this. I mean, all these gentlemen who are there, they probably went for birthday party. And Governor Wike, of course, is the host. He will host everybody, whether you are from Labour Party or you are from or you are Omo Yele Sowore. As the governor of the state, he has a responsibility to be a good host. So I will not stretch this. But we'll see what happens on Friday, whether that reconciliation meeting between what is called the Wike camp and the Atiku camp takes place. But on the surface of it, the party will seem to have moved on. What we have on the table is an Atiku Okowa ticket for the PDP. And the PDP has a responsibility to ensure that the party is not bogged down by military, by internal wranglings, which is the subject we've been looking at since yesterday. Maybe that's what Kola Ologbondiyan, who is a chieftain of the party, will also talk about perhaps this morning.
They say a picture is worth 1,000 words. Yes, there's a subtext of a birthday party. There's a subtext of the fact that Peter Odili is being celebrated and all of that. A lot of, ex-PDP people might be there. It might be a good reunion for them. But there's also a subtext of the internal wrangling in the PDP. And there's also a subtext of the fact that the last time Governor Wike commissioned the project, he had people from other political parties and nobody from the PDP was there. There's also that subtext there. But like they say, a picture is worth 1,000 words. You can read whatever you want to read out of it. But there's also the subtext that the PDP has been inundated with this wicked problem. And the earlier they solve it, the better it is for them. As of today, have they solved it? No. Like you said, we'll see what the committee comes out with, but it's still a big problem within the PDP. And that's why any picture taken is read in any way, shape, or form. So people that are looking at it and saying, what's going on here? They have a right to look at it and say otherwise. Because if Governor Wike was aligned with the PDP, this picture would probably not mean anything. But because there's an internal wrangling, and picture means a lot of things, and that's why people are looking at it this way. We'll hear more, we'll see more in the coming days, but it is best the PDP fixes its internal problem. If it's vying for a leadership position in the country, if politicians or political parties are set up to win elections, and they can't fix internal democracy, And it's a big problem. And we've seen how internal democracy has ruined the prospect of the PDP in 2015. The internal fights never really ended. And that fight persisted. In fact, there's a shocking revelation in front of this morning that told the story of how Dambazo restrained and said no, he wasn't going to topple Goodluck Jonathan. Because of still the fights that went on when Jonathan emerged, even after taking over from Umar Musa Yar'Adua. So there's a lot that has gone on in Nigerian history. Now to education, where the latest negotiation between the federal government, committee headed by Professor Nimi Briggs, and Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASUU, may have ended without an agreement. The meeting, which took place at the facility of the National University Commission, NUC, lasted for about 3 hours. At the end, both parties dispersed without uttering a word on the outcome. But reliable sources at the meeting told this day that the issues were not conclusively resolved as to lead to suspension of over the next 6 month strike by university lecturers. So, but this problem continues.
Well, I mean, from the reports that I have seen, the meeting at the headquarters of the National Universities Commission lasted from 12 noon till 3 p.m. But at the end of the day, nothing came out of it. The ASUU group, led by Professor Emmanuel Osodeke, said that, look, these people are not serious. They are not proposing anything. Another person that was quoted in one of the reports, who was also at the meeting, said, look, the federal government team, led by Professor Nimi Briggs, came there and just told them that they should please call off the strike, that they were begging them. Now, the substantial issues at stake, in other words, were not addressed. Another person who was at that meeting also said, oh, they brought a proposal which did not make sense. Okay, maybe that proposal is just begging the lecturers to call off the strike. Universities in Nigeria have been shut down since February 14, 2022. A whole academic session has been lost. The fear is that another academic session would disappear because this is a contest of, of elections, of a general election. If you are a political leader, you will probably say, well, these university people, these polytechnic people, their trouble is too much. Let the universities remain shut down till after the election. So we're joking with the future of Nigerian children, of young Nigerians who deserve university education. We're robbing many Nigerians of their right to education, as defined, yes, in Chapter 2, even Chapter 4 talks about your right to dignity. Maybe education is part of your right to the dignity of the human person. And in Section 42, your right not to be discriminated against on the basis of any circumstance. So what is going on is not good for the country. For the university session, for universities, tertiary institutions to be shut down for a whole academic session. Many of these young persons, by the time this problem is eventually resolved, even postponed for the next government of Nigeria to deal with, many of them will have forgotten everything they learned. In this age where young people are perpetually on the phone, they are perpetually playing games, they are perpetually watching television, you stay at home for 2 academic sessions and you have only spent 1 academic session, you might as well just go back like somebody who learned nothing. And we will reap the consequences of this absent-mindedness, of this failure in the future. So what happened yesterday is just another indication that government is not really interested in addressing the challenges, the issues raised by ASUU. ASUU is talking about the sanctity of agreements. ASUU is asking for welfare, need to increase salary. ASUU is talking about rationalization. There's also the unresolved issue of payment system, whether it will be IPs or GIMFIS or UTAS, which the university teachers are recommending. And all of this, is up there. The only thing that government is saying is that government, the recommendation from Professor Nimi Briggs committee will require government to spend over 1 trillion. And that government does not have money. The same government has money to in one state, they just appointed about 35 special assistants.
Cross River.
Who will collect money. Abi, the same government has enough money to be mobilizing sitting ministers to be spokespersons, not paying attention to the original work that they have been given by the Nigerian people. So these are some of the contradictions, and these university teachers are just saying, look, if you discount the education sector, you sabotage the future of Nigeria. So they have a point, and I hope that Professor Nimi Briggs, who has made some effort in trying to resolve the problem, will not end up with a label that he too has joined the government side to reduce concrete issues to begging people, emotional appeal, and all of that. These lecturers have made it very clear they will not submit to emotional blackmail. So can we focus on the issues?
It's just obvious that this government does not, as governments before, not only this government, let me take all of them together, do not care for education. They're not passionate about the future of our children. They don't even work well for the educational sector. Since 1988, when we had the first big ASUU strike, we've been having strikes since then. We've lost many years. This problem has lingered for over 34 years. And the educational sector in Nigeria still remains the same. So it's all governments that have been in this country, since even the return to democracy. No one can be exonerated for this ASUU strike. But it shows where our priorities lie. It shows where our priorities lie, where Accountant General can steal hundreds of billions of naira. It shows where our priorities lie as a country. And now I hear they're looking for plea bargain when ASUU is on strike. It shows where our priorities lie, where there's massive corruption in the system. It shows where our priorities lie when termites are eating records, snakes swallowing money, and the likes. It shows where our priorities lie as a country. But education that is supposed to be the panacea of every economy is being relegated. And I keep making this argument that education helps a nation. Most of the 20 billion that comes back in foreign remittances in this country, $20 billion, are monies earned by people that went through their first degree in Nigeria. I keep citing Dr. Philip Ozogo, the man that gave $1 million to UCH in Ibadan, was trained first as a doctor in UCH. So that's the price of education. If you educate people today, they get the skill, they will add billions of naira to the economy. Today, foreign remittances makes almost as much or even no more than government revenue. Yes. And that's the result of education. But we treat it somehow, and the next thing we are so quick to say, government does not have money. But we have money to sign up to buy luxury Toyota Jeeps for people in Niger while our education suffers. We have money to do other things, but no education. It is well. Now to Owo Yibo in Delta State, where family and friends have held a commemorative birthday and day of tributes for Princess Margaret Obayegbona, who will have turned 88 on Tuesday. Arise News correspondent Jemima Boloko reports.
A pillar of strength for the family, an accomplished mother, and a revered community leader whose absence will be felt beyond her immediate environment, Mama has gone home to rest. The commemorative birthday allowed the family of the late Princess Margaret Obayegbona to honor their mother, grandmother, and great-grandmother. Mama would have turned 88 years old if she had not passed on June 16th, 2022.
Today is 16th of August, which would have been our mother's birthday. Because we know she's in a happy place in heaven, may we rise up and sing happy birthday. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, happy birthday, happy birthday, dear mom.
Who was Margaret Odinga by today, she should have been 88 years old. Thank God, God called her home at the time God decided.
Mrs. Ogbegbena was known as a fearless mama who gave her children the best education and quality of life. The late princess was born in Enugu on August the 16th, 1934. Princess Ogbegbena left her footprints in the health sector, defunct Bendel State. She was also an advisor to 3 successive governments in Delta State. Winner of many awards, including Best Academic Nurse in 1971 by the British High Commission and Best Practical Nurse in 1972 by the military governor of the then Western region. Dignitaries who graced the occasion are the Emir of Kano and Oba of Benin Kingdom, highly represented.
To let Prince Ogbegbena know that he is a son, a beloved son, in whom he is well pleased. Secondly, we give his condolence to the entire family of your Ogbegbena, that for his sake, he will put you in his prayers forever.
The Obi of Owa says the late mama contributed immensely to the Delta State and Nigeria.
She was an elect of God because she was very humble. She was merciful and kind to people. She was what we call mother. She was a replica of mother.
He's a woman of pleasure. He's very kind and he's kind to a fault. Mama, like we said in the church or in the auditorium there's no other name to give to Mama than to call her Mama G. That's Mama General, because she was a mother to all.
She was a disciplinarian, a gentle and caring lady. Mama G, G for General. We are going to really miss her, but she's always in our hearts. I know wherever she is, she's in a happy place. May God give us the fortitude to bear her loss.
The funeral service of Princess Margaret Ogbegbena will take place on the 19th and 20th of August in her hometown in Owa Oyibo. Jemima Boloko, Arise News, Owa Oyibo, Delta.